Hi, this is Bethany, and this is my entry for the 2017 NYX Face Awards. For my entry, I was inspired by the term Gilded Cage, which refers to how people may appear to have beautiful and perfect lives on the outside, but on the inside, or behind closed doors, they're not necessarily free. My aesthetic for this look is loosely inspired by Marie Antoinette and Impressionist paintings such as Monet. Therefore, this look is rather abstract. On my eyes, you may notice that they are adorned with chandeliers. On my chest, on the right side, there's a phoenix taking off, and the other wing is wrapping around me. And in the middle features a heart-shaped birdcage on my chest. So if you like this and you want to look like a beautiful little macaroon, then keep watching. Alright, to begin, we're going to be pulling our hair back because we're going to be working with cream paint. So we're going to be taking NYX's cream color and white and mixing it with a bit of teal to get this mint shade. I'm going to be using this practically like foundation, building it up with a beauty blending sponge because I want a really beautiful finish. I know that my inspiration is a bit from Marie Antoinette, but I don't want it quite cakey, but I just do want it to be very opaque and very bright. Then anytime I'm laying down a cream, I'm going to be setting it with NYX's SFX Set Loose Setting Powder. This way it's less likely to move while I'm working. Then taking NYX's eyeshadow base that's rather skin tone, I'm going to fill in all that area around the eye that I left blank because we're going to be using eyeshadows here. Then I'm using a blending brush to soften out the edges where the paint and that base merge together. Then taking NYX's Avant Pop palette in Art Throb, I've never looked at the name of this, oh my gosh. I'm going to use this pale pink to lay down a base for all the blending we're going to be doing on top of that. Next, we're going to be using these two ombre blushes from NYX. The first one is called Sweet Spring, and it's kind of a peony sort of color. I'm going to focus that a little bit more on the outer edges of my eye, and then diffuse that out along the outer part of my eye and into my temple. And then I'm going to drag it up underneath the eye. We're going to intensify these areas a little bit more later where necessary. Then taking the shade Codebreaker, which is a bit more fuchsia, fading to purple, I'm going to deepen my temple. And then I go back and forth a little bit, merging both of those shades together more gracefully. Next, I'll be using my NYX Ultimate Brights palette, and we're going to be using a mixture of all the pinks and purples in here, but first I'm taking on those fuchsias and purples. And I wasn't really happy with just putting this on the eye. I kind of softened it out because I'm going to come back later. I didn't want it to be just a matte purple. Then I'm going to diffuse that a bit with the more bright pinks in the palette. And then anything you mess up, just soften out with the sponge and set it again with the powder. Then using a stippling brush, I'm laying down that Sweet Spring blush right at the height of the cheekbone and fusing it into the temple. Then taking NYX's Duo Chromatic highlighter in Snow Rose. I chose this because while it is a bright one, it also has a pink to lavender shift in it, which looks really gorgeous on top of my temples and my cheeks. And then I'm going to layer a little bit at the tippy top of my Cupid's bow. Next, we're going to be creating the chandeliers on our eyes. We're going to just do the matte part of it for now. So I'm taking the Vivid Brights liquid liner in Vivid Halo. And I started with a line straight down the middle of my pupil for point of reference, but also as part of the chandelier. And then I brought lines from the outer part of the eye to meet it, kind of a little lower than the height of my cheekbone. And then I brought two more little drips down as well. Then added one straight line on the outer edge of the eye to accent it. Then taking NYX's Full Throttle eyeshadow stick in Find Your Fire, I'm going to be putting that on the lower edge of the eye, just kind of softening where those chandeliers start. And then I'm going to diffuse what I laid down with a bit of pink eyeshadow from the Brights palette. Then after popping on a bit of mascara, I decide what my eyelids need is a bit of NYX's Prismatic eyeshadow in Punk Heart. This will give my eyelids a little bit more sultry shimmer, which I felt that it was just missing. After that, I'm going to line my eyes delicately with NYX's Epic Ink Liner, which has a really thin tip so that I can make that delicate line. Then I'm putting on some false eyelashes that are longer in the middle than they are on the outer edge. This will give me a more open eye type shape as opposed to lashes that flare on the outside. Once they're in place, I pinch them in the front to help them stay put, and then I applied a bit of this NYX's Coral Reef colored mascara to my lower lash line. Next, I'm going to be laying out the design on my chest and shoulders. As you can see, I've kind of plotted out my design with NYX's white eyeliner and jumbo pencil and milk, and then I'm going to fill in the places that are flesh toned with that cream paint I mixed earlier. Then I'm laying down a basic gold paint. I'm going to go over top of this, but I just need it here as point of reference to make my collar. Then I use the cream paint to make sure all the edges are a clean design, especially around the collar. I do this around the wings as well. And I go over top of the bird cage because I'm going to paint the gold right on top of it, but I can kind of see the lines behind my cream paint because it's not fully opaque, it's just got a little bit of see-through abilities. Then using the NYX's Avant Pop palette in Art Throb, I'm going to be taking the green and blue on a shader brush, and I'm going to be building that up around the edges and softening it out with a flat foundation brush just to diffuse it. Then I'm going to be creating a shadow at the top end of the bird cage and around my décolleté area behind my collarbones, just to give everything more dimension. I think it really pulls the look together and makes them look more beautiful, but like these particularly bright shades pair really well with the mint. Then I'm sinking in the décolleté area a little bit. I will also be contouring under the wings a tad, up around the underneath of my chin, and giving more definition to the neck as well. And in places I feel need more depth, I add more blue than green. Next, we'll be taking the NYX Jumbo Eye Pencil in Milk to highlight a lot of the edges. And some of these edges are going to be colored over, but we need to lighten up the area because I'm going back in with that shadow stick from my lower lash line. And this is a very bright, very kind of intrusive color to a soft look. So we're going to need to add in a lot of gold to soften it out and give more of that impressionistic painting style that I'm going for. And again, this shadow stick is in the shade Find Your Fire. I thought it was rather fitting a color and a name because my bird is inspired by a phoenix. Just because the idea of setting yourself free and not being caged anymore. So yeah, I go back and forth filling that in, leaving some of the pieces of white undisturbed so we've got some clear-cut edges where feathers are. You'll notice I also swooped the tail of the phoenix up under the bird cage. You don't see a lot of this because the top part of the design was a bit more important to me, but the tail is swooping up and it's going to have gold edges as well too. And that's me just setting everything with the NYX powder. Then for the vast amount of gold I'm going to be using in this look, I customized my own gold paint using NYX pigments and glitters and the NYX mixing medium with a tad bit of glycerin. So I mixed a ton of this and I'm filling in my collar with it. I was aiming for a nice antique-y gold with a good metallic flash to it. And as I paint the bird cage, I hopped over to a much thinner brush. That way I can start off with my thinner strokes, and then if they don't look as clean and confident, I can thicken them up in areas where they are less symmetrical to the other side. I'm also being sure to bend the bars of this bird cage so that this heart shape to it really looks like it's rounding out. This doesn't have to look perfectly realistic, but it's kind of like symbolic, and it ties in with the impressionist painting type style. Then taking more of that gold, I'm adding gold to the tips of the phoenix's tail. I add it to some of the edges of its wings, as well as its beak, because this is a fabulous phoenix. Yes, it is. And the best thing about adding this gold is it gives this picture a lot of movement. As I turn, little edges of it shimmer and it just adds a very special touch. And then you'll see here I'm using that blue eyeshadow to shade the tippy top of that cage a little bit more for more dimension. Then I'm hopping over to using NYX's white liquid liner, which is rather bright, to add feathery strokes to the wings. I added an eye to the phoenix. And I'm going to each of these feather areas and highlighting some edges. By adding this very bright white, it gives a lot more movement to the painting, and it lightens up areas that were probably a bit too bright and contrasting to the mint for me. So I just feel like the white brings everything together a little bit more. Then I'm going to be shading the top of my forehead. I'm going to be contouring my nose as well to make it look shorter and leaner, since painting my face made it look flat, and then shading up under my lip. Then using this felt tip liner that's sort of navy colored, I'm going to do a little bit of lining under the collar. I'm going to avoid harsh lines though because this is a more pastel look, but I just wanted a more distinct cut to that collar. I also used the white liner to highlight the top edge of that bird cage. Then we're going to be hopping back over to the eyes. I'm using NYX's Aqua Luxe Liquid Liner in 24 karat. I'm going to be adding a tad of that to the top and the lower edges of these chandeliers for more shimmer. I'm going to be adding a few more details onto the collar using that same gold to tie both the golds together. And then I'm going to be dotting the Cupid's bow like it's glitter to start out with the lips, which I am so excited for. I can't wait to show you. Alright, so once I've got that dotted in a diffused glittery fashion, I'm going to be first taking NYX's Liquid Suede lipstick in Run the World on my top lip and diffusing it to the bottom. Then I'm using NYX's Plush Gel lipstick in Coral Mist on the lower part of the lip. You could leave it like this, but I wanted to turn up the glitter, so I found this holographic confetti, and only do this toward the end because, you know, it's hard to drink water. But anyways, I neatly placed it on my lips, and places where I needed it to adhere more, I used some gloss and gently patted it into place until it was flat. There may be parts where it sticks over edges, just use a clean finger and gently guide it into the line of the lip. And then lastly, it's time for my wig and finishing touches. This wig is from Rockstar Wigs, I believe. It's a Marie Antoinette one. Then I'm going to be filling in my eyebrows. I'm using NYX's Slide-On Liner in Pink Cantaloupe, mainly at the front of my eyebrows, and brushing it through. Then I'm using some eyelash glue to adhere some holographic little rhinestones. Below them, I put teeny tiny pearls further down, dripping on the chandelier. And then on the outer edge of the eye, I put slightly bigger pearls. Then I add some finishing touches with that white liquid liner. Off camera, I did use the NYX's Faux Whites Lavender Blush Liner to line my waterline, and then I also put in some contact lenses from Cameo Eyes called Solar Green. Alright, that is my finished Gilded Cage look. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to give it a like or share it or comment down below. And keep in mind that this is an entry for the NYX Face Awards, so I do not know if I will get to compete. They will only choose 30 people and thousands of people enter. But I just wanted another chance to try to compete again, and hopefully you all like this video and maybe possibly you'll see me, who knows. Anyhow, I hope I will get a chance to compete and push my creativity and artistry to the limits. But if I do not, I thank you all so much for watching this video and always being so supportive of my creative endeavors. It really means a ton to me. So again, I thank you, and I will see you in my next video. Bye-bye.